As far as the takeaways for this session, you're going to walk away with understanding this idea of developing a content POV, point of view, understanding the idea of how you incorporate narrative into your booth, understanding how you yourself can execute a podcast in a booth, and almost as important or more important than the rest of this, how you achieve actual stakeholder buy-in. Because again, you're asked to do more with less, right? So let's start with the point of view, Matt. This is something that I love how much you've bought into, man. You want to talk about the importance of this?
Yeah. Okay. So point of view is a lot of people will work at companies where your company already has a point of view. You already have a starting point. You don't have to create a point of view. And a point of view to me is an opinion, a thought, a belief that you have on your industry, that you have on the problems in your industry, or a way of doing things. I think the hill that you die on type thing is like, what does your company believe? Right? I mean, people remember stories. People remember, just giving people like feature and benefit sell. It only takes you so far. People want story. They want to know your beliefs. They want to know who you are. A lot of companies, and for event marketers thinking, how do I take our point of view? Your company may already have it. Most companies do. You just have to find it. You have to sort of eke it out of your leadership, or it may just be incredibly obvious.
Yeah. And really what's important about it is what Matt talks about is how can it get you into a conversation, right? It can't just be like, well, we do security defense, so that's why we're here. It's something that gets you into a conversation. And there's a recipe for this thing, right? I like to explain this in the sense that you never really start a conversation with anybody. The best you can hope for is that you join a conversation that's already going on in their head. So if you're going to start a conversation with somebody, there's a recipe for the POV. And it starts with this idea of how the world is, right? Something we can all kind of agree upon, right? Like it's this idea of, hey, we can, like, you'll recognize it in how we started this thing, right? Like we can all agree upon the idea that event marketers do more with, or I asked to do more with less, right? And there's a big problem behind that. And it's just like, you all are starting to, you then get into the problem of like, yeah, but you're asked to do more with less, and then you're thrown into a fishbowl, right? Then you talk about the symptoms of the problem to get people to buy more and more in agreement. And once people are really in agreement, now you can present this new way of doing this. Podcast is a trade show booth, right? And then if you really want to finish and close the deal, you talk about the new world as is.
So just one thought I'm having as we're walking through this here is like, when you talk about how the world is,
yeah,
and the problem with it, one thing I think about when it comes to a customer, or like when we're selling to our customers and having those conversations, whether you're a judge selling yourself to a community, whatever it may be, the word that comes to my mind is empathy.
Yeah.
Because when you're creating a story and you're starting with a story of how the world is, the problems with it, there's this empathy, there's this group empathy that goes with it. And people latch to stories. They latch to things that are familiar to them. I use the example all the time. It's the same thing. When a comedian tells a joke that is super obvious and everybody cracks up laughing, it's not overly clever, right? But it's obvious. You all deal with it. It's all happened to you. The whole room laughs. And this is seemingly the same concept.
To your point, empathy, right? Like I think there's some real genius in how you designed this thing as Hotel Rockway, because it's based on your POV, right? So like maybe you can, so people can start to conceptualize it, start thinking about it. You can share it.
All right. Essentially, at Rockway, our point of view on the trade show event industry, on our market, is that trade shows and events are a sales and marketing strategy. They are not a cost of doing business, which means they must be treated and executed as such. So where this stems from is me years being in the industry and working with exhibitors and our customers and just questioning so much of the stuff that goes on, because what I see is I hear myself years and years ago talking to customers who are spending $100,000 on a trade show booth. That doesn't include the space. That doesn't include the flights, travel, sponsorship, all that. And when I ask them why they're doing this, what are the goals? What are the objectives? It's, well, we always go, or our competitors are there, or, well, if we don't go, people will think something's wrong. That to me was just always like, I don't want to say it sounds crazy because I think that's offense. Not really crazy. I think it's actually super normal, but it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense to spend all that money. That means you're treating it as a cost of doing business, which then to me stems back to why budgets get cut. It's why people say, oh, we're in a 20 by 30 this year, but we have $40,000 less. And I'm like, I don't even know where to begin, because what you were spending prior was barely enough. And we were making magic happen. So my point of view has come in the fact that some of the best companies we work with, they are dialed. They're dialed into who the customer is. They're dialed into why they're at the show. They're dialed into the objectives that they need to walk away and what those objectives achieve when it comes to pipeline, brand awareness, customer acquisition. And it just led me to thinking like, this is a hill that I want to die on. This is a hill that I want my company to die on, which is that when you work with Rockway, we believe the trade shows and events are a sales and marketing strategy, and they are not a cost of doing business. So we are going to work as if and treat them and execute them with you like a sales and marketing strategy. So all the questions, all the thought, all the work that we do will go into how do we get you results. So that's my point of view.
I love it, buddy. I thought you did pretty good there, man.
All
I
right, it's
think,
not bad, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I hit
Which
him with
is,
it.
this is a point
Yeah.
of view, right? Like, but then when you
Yeah.
tell the story, you got to be able to expand it that way. So give you another example, right? My company, Be the Stage, was founded on the idea, on the point of view that if you're not building a community, you're going to become a commodity. And the way that I talk about it is, 63% of small business owners believe that more than half of their business comes from word of mouth, but 80% don't have a strategy for it. That means that what they're really spending money on is look at me marketing. It's tricks for clicks. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? But the truth of the matter is that it's only getting harder and harder to get the consumer to talk to you. Studies have shown that in the 60s, the average consumer was being served 76 ads per day. By 2007, it was up to 98.5 per day. Anybody want to guess what it is now? Matt, you have a number of what it is now?
I would say probably I would say more than 10x the number that you just gave, if not 20x.
4,000 to
Yeah, I mean,
10,000
it
ads
must be
per
through the roof.
day. Right? 4,000,
Half of
10,000 ads
Facebook
per day.
is one big ad now. I mean,
It's
when you're
one big ad.
scrolling Facebook, if you've caught on to this, it's just ads. It's
Yeah.
not even, especially if your dwell time on Facebook is sitting on that ad, they will just keep giving you
Mhm.
ads and not giving you a feed of the people that essentially, I don't know if you're on there to
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
people,
And,
but yeah,
and what do you think is going to happen now with AI coming through, making it easier for people to make
it's
graphics,
going to
make
get
it easier
worse.
for people to write?
It'll
It's
just
gonna
get
it's gonna
worse.
go up exponentially again. So it's only going to get harder. There's a content apocalypse coming. It's
Yeah.
impossible to break through noise, right? Like it's only going to be the big businesses that have huge
Yeah.
ad budgets that are able to like compete at that like commoditization level.
Pablo, I think one thing to touch on this with the point of
Yeah.
view, right, is this. People and buyers in B2B, they want to do their own research. They want their own time to do their own research. And that research has changed. I mean, like, if you want to know anything about Rockway, like, yeah, you could go to our website. Sure, you could. But with the availability of information out, people are going to watch our LinkedIn. They're going to go to our TikTok. They're going to look at our Instagram. They're going to read our newsletter. They're going to absorb us.
Yep.
And hopefully, one of the messages that they're getting is our point of view. And they're going to say that's who they are. And then it's going to be their decision. Do they want to work with somebody like that? So I think the way buyers consume and the way that they buy now is very, very different. And in marketing, the old adage is that 3% is the bottom of the funnel. 3% are buying right now,
Yep.
right? And that's great. But I think that 97%, they are the ones doing their research, doing their homework. They want information from their peers. They want information. People are getting information from Reddit.
Yeah.
They're getting it from Reddit because it's a
Yep.
community of people. It's not pushy. It's not running ads against them. They're looking for that peer-to-peer approval, the information, and they want to educate themselves because they can. So
Yep.
that's where I think, kind of going full circle on this, why the point of view is so important from your company. Again, you don't have to create the point of view. It may not be your job to do that, but go figure out what is it. Ask marketing, CEO, whoever, what's the point of view, and then drive it in the ground.
Yeah, totally. And,
Because
and just as an example, Matt, if you'll just kind of let me land this thing, because I was going exactly there next, right? Like there's all this data that shows that
Land
this
the
stuff
plane.
isn't,
Go ahead. Land
that
the
this
plane.
isn't
Go ahead.
working, right? Consumer behavior has changed. We're going to our peers, right? Like that's what we're doing, right? And at the end of the day, that we're going to our peers because we trust our peers. We trust word of mouth more than anything else. So we need to figure out a way to systemize word of mouth. And we believe that you can. We believe that if you put the right
Yeah.
words in people's mouths, right? Like if you sound like everybody else, it's not going to work. You got to give people a reason to be like, oh, okay, this is why it works for me. If you put it in the right mouths, right? Like not just your sales team, but your other industry experts, your best clients, your partnerships, people around there that are respected, it's going to develop that. And if you create a watering hole, right? If you create the place where people that are wondering whether you're good get to interact with people that really believe you're good and get to listen to those conversations. If you build a community, you're systemizing this word of mouth play, right? So like you can either be doing tricks for clicks or look at me marketing, or you can be building a community, right? And if you're doing the first one, you're building a commodity. If not, you're totally building this moat. So that's our POV, right? So when we talk about the content that you can create from this, right? And what we want you all thinking is, does my company have a point of view, right? Like Matt said, it doesn't have to be, you might not have to have that exact formula written out somewhere, but what is the hill that your company will die on? It can be this idea of the event marketer is underutilized and people are looking at the event marketing wrong and they're overspending and under supporting the people that need to do it. It can be, hey, we've got another client that is a property manager that basically says property management companies make the most when you're in your worst position, when people move out and they got to find somebody new. We make the most when people stay longer, which is better for your property, right? Like that's a big deal. Or the other one is the whole like, we believe in this cause, Patagonia. We believe in sustainability so much that we're willing to leave profit on the table to make this thing happen. If you're with it, you want to buy our stuff, right? So like that is, what is the thing that you're willing to die on? You got something to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, well, yeah, what I was going to say is I think a lot of people are in seats when you work for a company. Like I said, you probably do not have control over the company's point of view. And Pablo and I understand that completely. So I think you're going to have to be crafty about what you get and from whom. So it doesn't always need to be some point of view that him and I are describing. Your company, it could just be really great messaging. Some companies have incredible messaging. They have one-liners that are just nail it. It just hits it. It's a great single message, and it is who that company is and what they're all about. We're just trying to get your brain turning as to how to leverage the point of view, great messaging, problem you solve, and that empathetic bridge to your customer to leverage it for events.
Yeah, love that.